Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And hello everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. We've got two prediction shows on the way in the feed this week. You're first going to get Night of Champions 2026 coming from Riyadh, as that show takes place on Saturday. But this show you're listening to is the AEW Forbidden Door 2026 predictions show here on the Juice Box. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. Subscribe to this show on YouTube at JuicySteen. You can listen to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen on Spotify, Amazon Music, JuicySteen.podbean.com, and on Apple Podcasts via iTunes, where, if you listen to the show there or on Spotify, if you leave a rating and review, it really does help the show grow. We've got two big shows this weekend. Additionally, we've got NXT Great American Bash, TNA Slammiversary. So if you're really gung-ho about pro wrestling and you got not much going on this weekend, 4 shows take precedent to where you can find them all and enjoy everything. But here in the Juice Box, we're going to cover the two main shows. The first, as you're hearing now, Forbidden Door AEW 5th Forbidden Door pay-per-view. This is taking place at the SAP Center, San Jose, California. And normally, this is your New Japan, Forbidden Door, Stardom, CMLL, but as time has gone on and wrestlers have switched and jumped and joined AEW anyway, Forbidden Door as a concept is less important, or less apropos maybe is the better term that I would use, where everybody's practically just in AEW, and a lot of these matches are just AEW matches, or AEW titles are on the line. Now, there is one New Japan Championship on the line, so we'll talk about that when we get there. But just in general, just this as a pay-per-view concept was incredible back in 2022 when it first happened. You're getting matchups that you never thought you'd see. This was strictly, AEW, New Japan, kind of one-on-one. And you had, FTR versus Roppongi Vice and the United Empire. Pac versus Clark Connors, Miro and Malachi Black. Darby, Sting, and Takagi versus the Bullet Club. Thunder Rosa, Tony Storm. Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy. Claudio versus Zack Sabre Jr., Jay White versus Adam Page, Kazuchika Okada and Adam Cole, Jon Moxley versus Tanahashi. So much awesome stuff took place at the original Forbidden Door and at the subsequent Forbidden Door pay-per-views. Just purely based on the fact that it was a unique way to present multiple companies under one umbrella, but as I stated earlier, the concept is kind of not as much, it's not hitting as much as it used to coin a term from the younger generation. And I would say I feel that way as well. I really do kind of share that same sentiment over the concept as a whole. That being said, though, this card is pretty intriguing, I would say, up and down the card. And the matchups, this weekend you're going to get, on the main shows, Night of Champions, where you got King and Queen of the Ring, winners of those tournaments have a world title opportunity at SummerSlam. Here at Forbidden Door, you've got the Owen Hart Memorial Cup Tournament final on the men and women's side, where the winners get a world title match at All In. So I love that concept, especially in one weekend. Like, I love being able to really set the path in motion for what at least one half of huge title matches coming up at the end of the summer for these two companies. So I'm definitely excited about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing who slots in where, and we'll talk about that as we move forth. But let's get into this Forbidden Door card. 10 matches, 9 on the main show. AEW's kind of locked into that 9 to 10 match show, unless it's All In, where you could get a lot more, but that's okay. That's a huge show, biggest show of the year. It is what it is. So on the pre-show, you've got the Divine Dominion, the AEW World Tag Team title defense for the women. Megan Bayne, Lena Cross taking on Thunder Rosa and Olympia. I don't see a reason to take the titles off of the Divine Dominion as of now. I'd like to see the titles be utilized even more. At least it's on the pre-show at all, so I'll take that. But I'm going to take Megan Bayne and Lena Cross to retain those titles. Let's move straight into the main card here. Let's talk World Tag titles for the men. Cope and Cage defending against the Dogs. Clark Connors, as I mentioned him earlier, and David Finlay as well. I mean, this seems to be Cope and Cage's summer to be tag champs 25 years after they were before in the WWE. And, you know, looking to take it all the way potentially to All In Wembley, where they will hopefully, please, locking into a tag title ladder match at All In Wembley. I think that's exactly where this whole thing should go. So, I do anticipate Finlay and Clark Connors providing some difficult resistance in this match, but I do see Cope and Cage winning and retaining the AEW World Tag Team titles. In a match that is very PWG coded, 3-way tag team match, Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, taking on El Sky team of Mystico and Mascara Dorada, and versus the Unbound Co., Shingo Takagi and Titan. I believe. If I butcher some of these pronunciations, I do apologize. It's the Forbidden Door, and I can't pronounce anything, even though I have a journalism degree. I can write, but I might not be able to speak, says the guy behind the microphone. But as Cope and Cage, I also think the Young Bucks are on a collision course for that World Tag Team title scene. Now, if FTR, who said they were taking some time off, do find their way in the mix by the time we get to All In Wembley and we get a triple threat ladder match or Full Metal Mayhem, whatever you can come up with that's TLC without calling it TLC, because I believe that's a WWE product, that's what I think is going to happen. So the Young Bucks, I believe, are going to win the tag match. I think Cope and Cage are going to win their tag title match and retain. At least Bucks versus Cope and Cage in a ladder match at All In Wembley would rule. Give me FTR for a really true triple threat ladder match. I think that would be incredible. Shota Umino taking on Pac. Now, this is, if you're unfamiliar, the son of legendary New Japan Pro Wrestling referee Red Shoes. And currently he is the IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion. This is kind of in the spot of the IWGP US title that's been since retired, I believe, in 2023. But he's defending against Pac here. I don't necessarily see Pac winning this unless Pac has aspirations to going to Japan, which I wouldn't hate to see if Pac were to want to go into the into some New Japan territory and kind of hone more of that craft over there, get some time over there. I mean, he's been there, of course, before. But to see him in this kind of new utilization of his character, I wouldn't be too upset at seeing him work some New Japan dates. But ultimately, I think Umino will retain the IWGP Global Heavyweight title, and Pac will continue working with the Death Riders for the foreseeable future, I would say. But should be a fantastic match. That I can't doubt, and I'm sure most, if not all of these matches are going to deliver in the ring. I always say this, AEW on pay-per-view is pretty damn undefeated in terms of in-ring and entertainment value, and you're going to get at least 4 to 4.5, maybe 5 hours of a great wrestling pay-per-view this weekend. So looking forward to all the matches just in general. Not going to spend too much time on this. Tekla taking on Starlight Kid, AEW Women's World Title. Now, for you Pokemon fans out there, Starlight Kid being the leader of Neo Genesis, which is a stable in Stardom, but Neo Genesis was the first Pokemon card set in the Neo subset of cards in the trading card game back in the day, which I believe came out arguably, days after Starlight Kid was even born. I think it might have happened even earlier than she was born, which is insane. But I don't see her winning this title. I think Tekla has a date with whoever would win the Owen Hart Cup final at All In. So I'm thinking Tekla will retain the championship here, and we'll talk about that Owen Hart Cup championship opportunity later on. Jon Moxley, Bandito, AEW Continental title. Do we see a potential fraying of Brodito, and could Brody King get involved in a way where, not to take Bandito out of the equation, but maybe throw Bandito off even though he's trying to help him, and then it causes Bandito to lose? I'd like to see Bandito versus Brody King maybe in a friendly respect one-on-one match down the line. Who knows? But I just see Jon Moxley retaining the Continental title in this match. That being said, I would not be too shocked if this match gets a little bit more time and emphasis on Bandito maybe winning, considering I had zero faith that I had zero faith that Kyle O'Reilly was going to take the championship from Jon Moxley at the last show at Double or Nothing. I had no faith in that. It was a good match, as I anticipated, as most AEW pay-per-view matches go. I just felt that, he had no chance. It was kind of predictable, as we say here on the Juice Box. Just because it's predictable does not mean it's bad. So I am on board with Jon Moxley winning and retaining his AEW Continental Championship. Let's dive in to the Women's Owen Hart Cup Final. This has been a fascinating tournament. We are now down to Maya World and Mercedes Moné. Now, Maya World took out Sky Blue. She took out Athena. And now she's against another one of her mentors and just people she idolizes in the pro wrestling world, pun intended, Mercedes Moné. And I think it's been a great story for Maya World. If you know anything about her personal life, she's gone through quite a bit of heartbreak over the last, month, really. That being said, I think the buck stops here. I think Maya World's ultimate awesome run gets cut short, and we get Moné on to Wembley Stadium to take on probably Tekla, but who knows what happens at Redemption, the next AEW pay-per-view that will be taking place in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. The first ever AEW pay-per-view to be taking place in Montreal. So I do believe that it's very possible that we get Tekla taking on Mercedes Moné. And, look, that's going to be an incredible match. I think that, Tekla's been kind of an underrated wrestler going into her title reign. And then she became champion, and then she's actually showed up, showed out, proved a lot to people like me in regards to what she can bring to the table on the mic as well as in the ring. So I think Tekla and Monet would be a fun match for All In Wembley, and I hope that they stay the course with that. Let's talk dream match. Kenny by God Omega taking on Zack Sabre Jr. Man, Zack Sabre Jr., I remember watching him at PWG back in probably 2017-ish. And, I mean, my God, this guy has been seemingly just one of the best wrestlers in the world for damn near all of those 10 years. And here he is at 38, probably still in the prime of his career, taking on Kenny Omega, who, in my opinion, and I know that a lot of people will say, oh, it's got to be MJF versus Ospreay at Wembley. Maximum pop for Will, maximum heat for Max. And I agree with that, but I think that with what we're looking at in terms of where Kenny Omega is at with his career, where Omega and Ospreay have, their, where they have their history of their trilogy, I feel that, I don't know. I think that it's going to be down to Kenny and Will at All In. That is what I'm looking at. I think that this is like a final chance to get this match on the biggest of stages, and they had their huge match at Wrestle Kingdom. They had their second match at Forbidden Door the same year. I think that it is time to put a third and final one-on-one match outside of their one-on-one match they had in PWG at Wembley Stadium. And I think that that's a move and a match that is so coveted, I think, by Kenny, by Will, probably by Tony Khan, probably by a lot of the fans that are wanting to watch Will. And I know they'd love to see Will beat MJF, the dastardly MJF. But, I mean, man, could you imagine Omega Ospreay concluding the trilogy, world title on the line? I think that's what they're going to do. So I'm going to take Kenny Omega to win this match against Zack Sabre Jr. in a hard-hitting, spirited bout. But Kenny gets the win. Let's talk men's Owen Hart Cup final. Winner gets the AEW World Title match at All In. Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland. I see maybe Hangman Adam Page getting involved, costing Swerve this match. And I know, they were kind of helping each other, but I mean, are you really always going to be friends with that guy after you burned his house down and everything that went down between you two? I find it hard to believe, and I think it's just Will Ospreay's tournament to lose, and I think Will wants to go to All In as challenger and come in on that white horse and try to dethrone either MJF or Kenneth Omega. So give me Ospreay in an incredible match. Look, these two were part of one of the best matches last year at All In Texas. I was in attendance for that. Those two versus the Young Bucks for the EVP titles was insane. And probably, I'd say arguably the best match of the whole show. And I just hope that if we can get these two just straight up, it's like, all right, well, you did so well as a tag team last year. Let's go into what we've got cooking in the following year, which is, hey, you can now be against each other, but respect each other. You're both top guys. Let's go for one-on-one. Who wants it more, you or Swerve? Man. But the match that they had with the Young Bucks was incredible. And to think that we've gotten now to here, and we're at a spot now where, damn, like, who's to say that they can't have a banger here? I just don't see Swerve winning, though. I think Hangman could take it away. I don't see Will Ospreay not walking into Wembley with a shot at the world title. And I'm just going to stick by that. I do think it's going to be Kenny versus Will at All In, and I'm hopeful that that's the case. So we'll see. But let's talk main event. Maybe the main event, because the Owen Hart Cup could be the main event, but I think this steel cage match will be the main event. Team Briscoe. Team MJF / Don Callis family. 6-on-6. You've got MJF and Kevin Knight, Kyle Fletcher, Jake Doyle, Kazuchika Okada, and Andrade El Idolo taking on Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, Konosuke Takeshita, and Darby Allin. If Briscoe's team wins this match, he will earn an AEW World Title opportunity against MJF. Who knows if that's on a Dynamite? Who knows if that's at Redemption? Who knows if Kenny Omega finds his way into any of those opportunities? This is in a steel cage. I think it's set up for Mark Briscoe's team to win, and you get that next big opportunity for Mark. I hope that doesn't take place at Redemption. I'd love to see Kenny Omega get the opportunity at Redemption to win the AEW World Title once again. But I'm looking forward to this because it's a cage match, but there's 12 guys in it. It's going to be a lot of mayhem. I think it's going to be a bigger cage than we're used to. So I'm looking forward to this whole show. As a matter of fact, now that kind of going up and down the card, kind of exploring each opportunity and perspective and outcome there is. But overall, I'm looking forward to it. Give me a 4.5 hour card here, even though it starts at 8. It's frustrating when that happens because you know you're running into midnight. But although it's also taking place in San Jose, so it's like you could do the time a little earlier if you wanted to. But just looking at the card as a whole, quite a few interesting stories here. The Mark Briscoe MJF thing. Kenny Omega, can he get back on the win streak here? Will Ospreay get the opportunity of a lifetime at Wembley Stadium? Will Mercedes Moné have an opportunity to claim the AEW Women's title? A championship, by the way, that even though she's held, how many titles did she hold at that one point? She's never held the AEW Women's title. She was winner of the Owen last year. So I could see her winning it again. Maybe Maya World shocks the world. I have a bad feeling she won't, though. Set up Cope and Cage with the Young Bucks. Give me some story outside of everything else going on, and I'll be satisfied. I'll be very sports entertained by a very pro wrestling company. But I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are as well, and you can follow me at Juicy Steen on Twitter. Follow along all Sunday night as I'll be live tweeting Forbidden Door. At Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, at Juicy Steen on YouTube. Subscribe to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And if you listen to the show on either of those platforms, leave a rating and review. You can also check out the Juice Box on Amazon Music and juicysteen.podbean.com. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. We will be back next week to discuss everything that happened at Forbidden Door. And we'll see what transpired and who is going to try to be all in for Wembley Stadium at the end of the summer. So, I'm Juice Springsteen. This has been the Forbidden Door 2026 Prediction Show, and we'll see you guys next week for another edition of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.